Hey guys, Aniket here. Been a while. Today I want to talk about why Lord of the Rings is more than just a fantasy. I mean, billion-dollar franchise, 150 million books sold and selling. It has kind of transcended the word fantasy. I mean, fantasy, if you think about it, is a small part of the whole. And at this point of time, Lord of the Rings is so ingrained in our minds that has inspired hundreds upon hundreds of books, TV shows, movies, music, art. So much of inspiration through one man's imagination, J.R.R. Tolkien. And the whole story of how he came up with the story of The Hobbit is so bloody fascinating. I mean, one day he was grading English papers and he saw a blank page there. And he just couldn't leave a blank page blank. So he wrote on it. And he wrote on that. In a hole in the ground, there lived a hobbit. He had no freaking idea who the hell Hobbit is. So he let his imagination go. And by doing so, he captured the imagination of generation upon generations of us. And I'm sorry I'm going to use the word imagination quite a lot in this video because in the end, that's what Lord of the Rings is to us. What represents to us? Imagination. I mean, Tolkien's imagination has inspired so many authors since 1950s that J.K. Rowling based Dementors in her book series on the ring wraiths of Tolkien. George R. Martin is a big fan of Tolkien's work. You can see references in the A Song of Ice and Fire itself. I mean, the whole structure of how Martin has created for the A Song of Ice and Fire, the story starts simply from a small place, Winterfell, the Stark family, and they go out, and through them we discover the world of A Song of Ice and Fire. Tolkien, Shire, hobbits, they go out, Rohan, Gondor, Mordor, Middle Earth. Put simply, basically. And Brandon Sanderson's Cosmere World is, you can see how much he was inspired by Tolkien to create a whole universe, planets, cultures, people, different mythology for this and that. I mean, it's so bloody amazing. And if you have not read Brandon Sanderson, I recommend you full-heartedly to read them. It's amazing. That's what Tolkien is. Not just to the authors, the movies based on it. I mean, Lord of the Rings movies are one of the best successful franchises there is. 17 Oscars to boost. And the music. I mean, Beatles were big fans of Lord of the Rings. And Led Zeppelin kind of literally wrote songs on Lord of the Rings. My favorite Led Zeppelin song, Ramble On, has lyrics directly referencing the characters in the Lord of the Rings. I mean, this is how much important Lord of the Rings has been to us, to society, to who we are right now. I mean, the literary scholars, critics, and many hundreds of authors have all come to a same conclusion that Lord of the Rings is one of the most important works in literature of the 20th century. It is that big. It's that important. And personally, for me as a 14-year-old kid, when I first read Lord of the Rings, it kind of blew my mind away. Just think about it for a moment. For a 14-year-old kid to see and imagine a world like that. And that's what I started doing a lot. Started imagining so many different universes I can come up with. That's what's so important because life is so stifled with so much of things that happen, going to work, paying the bills, relationships, so much so. You can feel suffocated at times, that there is so much around you that you can't control. But you can control your imagination. And through your imagination, you can make possibilities possible. A possible make your possibilities. Imagination, you imagine. And that's what Lord of the Rings is, and why it is not just a fantasy books or a movie series. I mean, if there had been no Lord of the Rings movies, there would not have been a Game of Thrones. Try and imagine your last 10 years without Game of Thrones in it. You can't. That's how important Lord of the Rings is. I can go on and keep talking about how beautiful that world is. It's allegory to Christian faith and the whole culture of the industrial complex and how destructive industries can be to the conservation of environment. It's so brilliant in that way. But the thing that I want to talk about right now, what makes Lord of the Rings unique to me at least, it's a simplicity. It's a complex story set in a very complex world, told simply about good versus evil. That sometimes good wins, you may not get your happy endings, but your endings could be bittersweet. It's a story about friendship and loyalty. It's about having trust and faith in others and believing in others. I think that is kind of important to have in our world right now, to have faith. Sometimes the good guys win, sometimes sanity wins, sometimes hope wins. And I want to end this video on the two very important quotes that I think are important in this particular conversation we are having. The one is said by Gandalf, and he simply says, I will not say, do not weep, for not all tears are in evil. I mean, just think about it for a moment. How amazing that line is. Another one is when Frodo is feeling the burden of the whole ring that he is carrying to its destruction, and how important that responsibility is, that how important for him to reach the destination and to carry out the task that has been set for him. And he's feeling that burden. In that moment, he says to Gandalf, I wish it not need happened in my time. And Gandalf says, so do I, and so do all who live to see such times. But that is not for them to decide. All we have to decide is what to do with the time given us. Let's make the best of the time we have. Let's make hope win. And maybe someday we can see our imaginations win as well. And I'll imagine that there is something more happening there for me. I mean, imagination. And I keep imagining, and I will never stop imagining. And I hope you don't as well. Imagine, my friends. All you can do is imagine at times. I hope you liked this video. If you liked it, subscribe and hit the like button. See you later, guys. Bye-bye.